this Saturday night, the existential crisis at Canada Post. As postal workers go on strike, the Prime Minister defends his government's overhauls.
It's losing $10 million a day.
What will it take to get the mail moving? Gracious in defeat. Canada's women's rugby team comes up just short at the World Cup. Why it still has reason to celebrate. Full force. The U.S. president promises a military crackdown in Portland. Plus, feeling blue. The baseball fan frenzy in Toronto as the Jays look to clinch the top spot.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Prime Minister is defending his government's decision to drastically scale back services at Canada Post. Mark Carney says the beleaguered Crown Corporation is simply not viable.
Significant changes are needed to be made. The government has indicated the corporation should move forward with some changes that are the start of a path towards viability. More will need to be done.
The Liberal government announced an overhaul this week, arguing it's needed to ensure the company's survival. The union hit back, calling a sudden nationwide strike now into its second full day, bringing mail service to a standstill. Touria Izri reports on the dispute, the delays, and the fears of widespread job losses.
Other steps will need to be taken.
Defending big cuts coming to a public service, sweeping reforms that have triggered nationwide demonstrations.
A company is not viable, any organization not viable, if it's losing $10 million a day.
On a visit to the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Mark Carney faced questions about a labor crisis at home. 55,000 postal workers are off the job after the federal government cleared the way for the company to slash services. That includes ending home delivery, which Ottawa says will save the struggling Crown Corporation $400 million a year.
Why the union is reacting the way they are is the only way you get those kinds of savings is through downsizing the workforce.
The move comes during tense labor negotiations. Canada Post was set to present the union a counteroffer, but put that on hold after the reforms were rolled out.
The members are angry, they're frustrated. We've been waiting over a month now for their reply.
Canadians are looking for us to align the Postal Service to what they need today, not what they needed 20 years ago.
This is the second Canada Post strike in less than a year, halting deliveries across the country. Last time around, it lasted more than a month, ending only after Ottawa intervened. But some labor experts say this latest disruption could drag on.
They may think that letting a strike play out is the best way to sort of beat the union into submission and for Canada Post management to get what it wants.
A 158-year-old institution and tens of thousands of workers facing an uncertain future. Touria Izri, Global News, Montreal.
The Prime Minister has had a busy travel schedule of late. He's in the UK this weekend following his trip to the UN General Assembly in New York earlier this week. His political opponents are now taking aim at his numerous trips, accusing Carney of ignoring issues here at home. Mackenzie Gray is traveling with the Prime Minister. So, Mackenzie, what did Carney have to say about that?
Under fire from the Conservatives, Jeff, for spending too much time abroad, Mark Carney defended his recent trips to both the UN in New York and here to London.
You actually have to do the work. You have to meet with the leaders to make sure the work's being done. You have to mark progress as it's being done, which is what we're doing with the various European leaders.
Carney met with the Prime Ministers of the UK, Iceland, Spain, and Australia while here in London, but he didn't sign any new agreements, including the long-negotiated Canada-UK free trade deal. That led Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to tweet, "These trips are nothing but liberal show business to distract from spiraling debt, costs, crime, immigration, and job losses." Immigration was something the Prime Minister also touched on today after making this remark in New York earlier this week.
I understand you're changing your visa policy here, so you're going to hang on to a few of those.
That change Carney's referencing is to the H-1B visa, a U.S. immigration category that brings in highly educated foreign professionals. And Donald Trump has raised the fee for that visa to $100,000 a person, which Carney says presents a potential opportunity to attract new talent, particularly in the tech sector. That could factor into upcoming changes to the immigration system.
The government is currently conducting a review of that strategy. Our immigration levels plan, so-called levels plan, will be released in the course of the next 6 weeks or so.
Donald Trump's latest tariff move also potentially impacting Canada. A 100% levy allegedly coming in on certain pharmaceuticals, a major Canadian industry, with over $70 billion annually. But the Prime Minister believes the impacts will be limited.
The vast majority of Canadian pharmaceutical exports to the United States are generic pharmaceuticals, so on the face of it, would not be affected by this.
Carney also paid tribute to the High Commissioner to the UK and longtime Liberal Cabinet Minister Ralph Goodale, who will soon end his term here in London, Jeff. He's set to be replaced by former Public Safety Minister and current Liberal MP Bill Blair.
Mackenzie Gray in London tonight. Thanks, Mac. And while in the UK, Mark Carney also took the opportunity to cheer on Team Canada at today's Women's Rugby World Cup final. The Prime Minister and his wife joined the record-breaking crowd of around 82,000 for the match against the top-seeded Team England. Eric Sorensen reports on the thrilling finale watched by a new generation of Canadian fans.
It was the largest crowd for women's rugby in history, and Canadians, outnumbered by England playing at home, were out in force. Craig Smith came from Calgary.
We are rugby fans, and today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Canada started fast, scoring in the first 5 minutes, but top-ranked England responded. Watching it all back in Canada, probably the biggest audience ever for rugby in this country, from the Tars Rugby Club in Halifax to a watch party in Edmonton where 12-year-old Rowan Chevry looked on.
Well, it's cool because I've always wanted to play for Canada. It's cool to see other women compete and represent.
The Canadians fought hard, but a few too many errors. The disciplined Red Roses of England would go on to win their 3rd World Cup. Canada was an underdog, but it's still a heartbreak. Sasha watched from Vancouver.
Honestly, just the moment itself was so exciting, and then the game was amazing rugby. You got to give it up for them. They gave their all out there.
Today's outcome extends what has been more than 30 years of dominance for two nations, New Zealand and England. One or the other has won the last 9 Women's Rugby World Cups. But Canada beat one of them, New Zealand, in the semi-finals, and has served notice that this country is now a rugby power to reckon with in the future. This team captured Canadian hearts, a non-traditional sport for women, training in obscurity, without the funding or rugby culture in countries like England, yet with the passion and teamwork to rise to number 2 in the world.
And I'm really hoping that we are going to do very well from this, and I hope that we get the funding that we need.
For many Canadians, this may have been their first good look at rugby.
It would be awesome if the sport can get a bit more traction over in Canada.
I think everybody's so super proud of how far they were able to come, and they're such great role models.
And if a new generation in Canada is inspired to try this rough and tumble sport, the 2025 women's team may be the inspiration for them. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Well, more help has just arrived in the search for a missing 6-year-old boy in southern Alberta. 225 crew members from Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan are now in Crow's Nest Pass looking for Darius McDougall, who's been missing since last Sunday.
Their task as of today was to shoulder, so side by side, slowly go through that area where Darius is believed to have last been seen.
McDougall never returned after going for a walk with other young family members. He has autism, so search crews have been playing his favorite song and avoiding loud noises as they try to find him. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it is reviewing an incident caught on video that appears to show a border officer in New York State yelling at a Canadian tourist. That video appears to show a U.S. officer in uniform pulling up next to a Canadian driver and telling them, quote, never come to the U.S. again. According to the social media post with the video, the altercation happened Monday morning near the Canada-U.S. border crossing in Niagara, New York. The CBP has not confirmed if that man is indeed an employee. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to deploy the military to another American city. In a social media post, Trump says he will send federal troops to Portland, Oregon, to defend immigration detention facilities there, which the president says are under siege. As Candace Cole reports, it's the latest example of the president's escalating military crackdown on American soil.
In his latest threat to deploy federal troops to U.S. cities, President Trump made this post Saturday morning, directing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to send troops to, quote, war-ravaged Portland to protect immigration detention facilities he claims are under siege by the anti-fascist movement Antifa, which Trump designated as a domestic terrorist group earlier this week.
The number of necessary troops is 0. In Portland and any other American city. The president will not find lawlessness or violence here.
Portland Mayor Keith Wilson says he's disappointed that old recycled footage is being used to justify sending troops to his city. Last week, Trump told reporters,
"Have you seen Portland at all? Have you taken a look at what's happening in Portland? It's, I mean, this has been going on for years. It's just people out of control and crazy. We're going to stop that very soon."
His comments came just 2 days after Wilson said the city would issue a land use violation against the Trump administration regarding its immigration detention facility in southwest Portland.
Federal records show that ICE violated its land use conditions of approval 25 times in 10 months by detaining people for more than 12 hours or keeping them overnight. This review was triggered by the federal government's breaking promises to our community regarding the detention of human beings.
Trump first mentioned sending troops to Portland in the beginning of September, following protests outside its ICE facility that began over the summer.
I watched Portland, Oregon last night burning to the ground.
This latest move comes just days after a gunman opened fire on an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas, that killed 1 detainee and injured 2 others. Trump previously sent troops to Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and has threatened doing so in several left-leaning cities. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
That is Colombian President Gustavo Petro at a pro-Palestinian rally outside UN headquarters in New York yesterday. Petro urged U.S. troops to disobey President Trump's orders, and he called for Americans and Israelis to point their rifles towards tyrants and fascists. Well, the U.S. State Department now says it is revoking Petro's visa, accusing him of inciting violence. Petro spoke at the UN General Assembly earlier this week, accusing Trump of being complicit in genocide in Gaza. The Trump administration is also being accused of taking aim at the FBI. More than a dozen federal agents have reportedly been fired over photographs that show them kneeling during Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C. 5 years ago. The FBI Agents Association is now pushing back, calling the firings unlawful and demanding a congressional investigation. The group is accusing FBI Director Kash Patel of violating due process and weakening the Bureau's integrity and morale. At a congressional hearing last week, Patel denied that he's taking orders from the White House on whom to fire, and he said that anyone who has been fired failed to meet the FBI's standards. Europe on high alert. Coming up. More suspected Russian drones are spotted over another NATO country. At least 36 people have died in a deadly crush at a political rally in southern India. The incident happened as tens of thousands gathered for a campaign event for actor-turned-politician Vijay. The event was delayed, which left the crowd waiting for hours, with some fainting in the heat. Officials say more than 50 people were injured. UN sanctions against Iran are set to be reimposed at midnight, 1 decade after they were lifted over a deal to curb its nuclear program. The move comes a month after the UK, France, and Germany triggered the mechanism to reimpose sanctions after accusing Tehran of failing to fulfill its commitments. Iran is now recalling its ambassadors from those 3 countries. Denmark's defense ministry says that drones have again been sighted at several military facilities overnight. The sightings come after several drones were observed in the Nordic country earlier this week, which temporarily shut down Danish airports. The drones were reportedly seen near Denmark's biggest military base. The unexplained drone activity has raised security concerns in northern Europe amid suspected Russian aggression. Suspicious drones were also spotted over Germany on Friday, and Russian drones were shot down over Poland earlier this month. A reunion of spies still ahead. Intelligence officers from the Cold War return to their former front lines. Well, it's a workplace reunion like no other. Former intelligence officers from the Cold War are returning to Berlin's Teufelsberg facility. For more than 20 years, the Listening Post monitored communications in the communist Eastern Bloc. And this week, former U.S. and British military personnel are gathering amid the ruins, revisiting memories of their secret missions. As Mike Armstrong reports, there's more history there than meets the eye.
Surreal is how one former intelligence officer described stepping back onto the Teufelsberg grounds. The men and women in this group spent years posted in West Germany on this spot as a sort of first line of defense in the Cold War.
The West was fairly keen to know what the East troops were doing, and it wasn't just East German troops, there were Russian troops here as well.
Back in the day, this listening post could intercept communications hundreds of kilometers across the Iron Curtain. 1,000 Americans and 500 British soldiers worked in shifts, listening to as much as they could 24/7. The facility was so tightly controlled and secret, there was barely any socializing, even among allies.
Today is a really very fulfilling day to meet some of my counterparts from the 1980s that I did not know at the time.
Now, the spot was chosen for the listening post because of its location. Its pressurized globes were perched on one of the highest points in the region, but the hill it's on is in fact artificial. Before the Second World War, the land was flat. The Nazis had started construction on the same spot of a massive faculty of military technology. Construction was halted in 1940 as resources were redirected to the war. Then came post-war Berlin.
What was once a metropolis of 4 million is today a lifeless mound of rubble.
Rebuilding Berlin meant moving out hundreds of thousands of truckloads of debris. One of the places they dumped it was on top of the abandoned military technology building. It became the largest of the city's rubble mountains and the highest. The Allies built the permanent structures in 1963. It operated until the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, and 5 years later was handed over to Berlin. The city without the wall couldn't be more different.
I mean, we drove over this morning, and it was gorgeous to see all the buildings in their brilliance, and it was really, really good.
They just invited the Air Force folks.
Teufelsberg today is an open-air art gallery and a popular stop for tourists. The people who once worked in it, there is a feeling of pride that they may have helped keep the Cold War cold. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Baseball buzz up next. Can the Blue Jays clinch their first division title in a decade?
Game on, Cancer.
More than 1,500 players from 140 teams took part in the world's largest road hockey tournament in Vaughan, Ontario. The event raised $3.2 million for cancer research, bringing the annual tournament's total to over $36 million. This hockey-crazed country has recently been focused on baseball. The Major League playoffs begin next week, and with a win on Sunday, the Toronto Blue Jays could clinch their first division title in a decade and have a real shot at the World Series. Lexi Benedict reports on the economic impact of the Blue Jays' buzz.
There's baseball fever in Toronto as the Blue Jays swing into the postseason.
Oh my gosh, super excited and a little bit nervous, but I believe in these guys.
The Jays haven't made the postseason since 2023, and they haven't won the World Series since 1993. But fans are hoping that the team's decades-long title drought might soon come to an end.
they're going to pull through. This is their year.
We're keeping our fingers crossed.
And the excitement isn't just in the stands. At Steam Whistle Brewery and Tap Room, the postseason is a home run for business.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Normally we'd be dead by now, but it's electric. We're getting lots more money, lots more business. The vibes are high, the city's alive, so are we. It's a good time to be a Jays fan.
For many, game day also means a visit from out-of-towners.
Come from Edmonton to come to the game. We're excited to go. We just were up in the CN Tower, and now we're going to go to the games.
We came down for the weekend to see 2 Jays games, so it's pretty awesome.
While the Jays have many flocking and flying into the city, and restaurants and bars near the Dome are seeing a boost, one economist we spoke to says the playoff run might not impact Toronto's economy as much as you might think.
So the illusion, of course, is that there's this huge economic impact that goes on. The reality is close to zero. And when we look at these large sporting activities, they usually have very little effect on the local economy. It's just that they're diverting spending from one area to another.
But Lander says regardless of its benefits to the city's economy or not, soak it in for as long as you can.
Enjoy it while it lasts, because as Toronto knows, championships are hard to come by.
Lexi Benedict, Global News, Toronto.
Let's go Jays. That is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Bay Bulls, Newfoundland and Labrador, Surrey, BC, and Kenora, Ontario. Keep them coming. Send your photos of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.